Hello, hello. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged. Today is Tuesday, November 23rd. It is Thanksgiving week here in the United States. And what does that mean? That means many businesses, including ours here at One Firefly, it means we'll be closed Thursday and Friday in honor of the national holiday of Thanksgiving. So hopefully you all have a nice week of activities with friends and family planned, and you really celebrate all that you are thankful for. What's been going on around here? It's been a crazy busy time. Lots of fun things happening at One Firefly. But one of those things last week, I attended along with a couple of my teammates. We attended the Total Tech Summit that took place in Orlando, and it was my first time as a vendor at that show. So I've spoken a few times at the show, and I had the honor on Wednesday of last week speaking. I think it was on the evening of the 17th, and I was able to join a panel with Mark from AVIQ and Tim from D Tools. And that was fun. And then I had a lot of fun giving a 25-minute talk on web design best practices. And we even gave everyone in the audience a report card grading the performance of their website. And Ron, our guest here, was one of the recipients of one of those report cards. So we'll put his on. I've asked Ron's permission, and Ron said we could put his report card on the screen. But it was an awesome event, and I can say confidently, One Firefly will do this again. It was, as a vendor and as a participant, it was a well done, organized. It was a small event, but it was very nice, very very professionally managed. So kudos to Jason Knott and the team at Emerald. It was well done. So you are all here to listen to show number 194, and we have a special guest, Ron Wanliss, CEO and founder of Technology Design Associates. I can tell you that I've had the pleasure of getting to know Ron over the years. Really, when I joined Azione, when Firefly joined Azione back in 2016, and Ron has always been a very active member in that group, always sharing and leading sessions, helping others. And I've really admired him from afar. And then in the last couple of years, we actually started doing some things together. And we did build Ron's website. Ron will remind me when we did that, but I want to say maybe in the last year and a half, we built his website. And we do some marketing for them. So full disclosure, Ron and company, they are a client of One Fireflies. So as you all know, certainly not a prerequisite for anyone being on the show, but on occasion that does happen. And that's great. Ron comes to the table with 40 years of AV industry experience, and he is he's going to share with us today some of the lessons learned over those 40 years. So definitely, I appreciate everyone that's tuning in. If you are tuning in, I see some people tuning in from Facebook right now. If you are here, give us a like, give us a share. If you're willing, maybe jot down in the notes, just tell us where you're coming to us from. I see Tomas already says saludos from Panama. It's been a while, but here we are. Yes, Tomas. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had you commenting on a show. And I know we're all busy people these days, but we got it. The show must go on, as they say on Broadway. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Ron on, and let's get this party started. Ron, how are you, sir?
Good, Ron. How about yourself?
And another day in paradise. Actually, my son is sick. I think he has a cold. And my wife just informed me as I walked down to freshen up my water that she's pretty sure she has a cold too, which means I probably have a cold coming on in the next few days. So fingers crossed that isn't the case.
Whether you like it or not. That's that I just had a call this morning from one of my project managers who says he's been trying to stick it out, but his entire family is sick, and his wife said he couldn't go to work anymore because he's been sick as well. So it is that time of the year.
It is that time of the year. Well, Ron, where are you coming to us from? Where are you sitting right now? What city and state?
I'm in Bend, Oregon currently.
Okay. And give our audience a high-level overview of your business. Do you do resi, commercial? How many locations? Kind of, and what's your role within the company? What I know you're a hard worker, and you work. I think you and I were chatting at trying to think of a recent event. And maybe it was Nashville when we were there for the Azione event. And you were telling me, yeah, Ron, I still work. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but many hours every week as I'm flying from one location to the next.
Yeah, I tell my team that when I finally retire, retirement looks like about a 50 or 60-hour work week would be really nice. So yeah, I'm still, with the way we're building this company, I'm still a 7-day-a-week nonstop guy. I'm putting in well over 100 hours a week, but it has a great opportunity at the end. So I'm willing to do that. And I really love this industry. I've been doing it forever, my entire life, and I still enjoy it to this day. So it's been a great opportunity. Technology Design Associates is my fourth company in my career, incorporated in 2011 as an opportunity to try and learn from all of my recession lessons and things that I've learned in the past that have cost me situations with other companies. And we currently have 6 locations, 2 in Oregon, 1 in Washington, 1 in Idaho, 1 in Nevada, and our most recent one is in Phoenix, Arizona. Each of those locations is a pretty small group of people that are doing super efficient work and putting out a lot of revenue with a centralized services team that handles everything other than sales and installation and service. Everything else, all the back office stuff, all the engineering, all the other things that you can think of that integrators have to do in this business is all handled by our central services team for them. And each of those locations is a small group. Our smallest is 2 in Ashland, Oregon. Our biggest is only 7 people. And that includes managers and project managers and so forth. So, so this is a new, well, I say new, it's 11 years old now, but this is my latest iteration of my company. And growing at about a 30 to 35% clip on an annual basis. So wow. We're still continuing to do that.
Is that growth happening organically, Ron, or is it happening through acquisition or both, or what's the desired growth model there?
It's a combination of both. So the first 4 locations were all organic. The last 2, the Reno, Nevada and Phoenix, Arizona, were actually acquisitions. They weren't planned acquisitions. I was fine where we were with the 4, and they just happened to drop into my lap, and there were opportunities I didn't want to pass up. Actually, the Phoenix one was kind of pushed through a little bit by me because my wife and I decided we wanted to winter in Arizona, and it was an excuse for me to buy a house down there and open an office in that area. So, and it's a great market. And it can use more good high-end companies that are not just doing the basics. So it's working out well.
And what's the split resi versus commercial across your locations?
So 5 of our 6 locations do almost 100% luxury residential. And then our Reno, Nevada location does probably about 40% of their business is actually commercial. The rest is luxury residential. So they were one of the acquisitions, and all of that commercial business came along with the company when I acquired it.
I'm tempted to go into this business model, but I'm going to put a pin in that, and we're going to come back to it because I want to learn more.
Sure.
I've got some questions written down, but before we go there, Ron, I want to, if we can, go back in time. Tell us about your start. How did you end up down this path that has had you in this industry for 40 plus years?
Well, let's see. As a high schooler, I decided to join the military because I was bored and needed some structure. When I went into the Air Force, I went in electronics because I really enjoyed electronics. I did avionics maintenance in the Air Force. And when I got out of the military, I was looking for something in electronics, wanted to be in that industry still. The only thing, I was born and raised in the Napa Valley. The only thing going on there electronics wise back then, everything was wine. So the only thing electronics wise was an AV company that did a lot of satellite work and a lot of custom stuff for all the winery owners and that type of thing. I went to work for them as a install lead and an engineer. And 2 years later, I bought that company because the owner decided he wanted to move on and do something else. Ran that for 10 years down there. And in the early 90s, when the construction industry took a crash in California, decided to move my way up to Oregon, where everything was growing like crazy. And that's kind of it. And then started a new company up here. Then went to work and ran a couple of companies here. Been through a lot of different iterations up here in Oregon. We've been here for 30 years. So this current company happened. One of my big mistakes was growing too large and getting to a point where one location here in Bend, Oregon, which is a second home area, with 25 employees plus myself, doing several $1 million a year in business, thinking we were doing great, not realizing, that we could do better. And then the tech bubble burst. And when the tech bubble burst, also the second homes in the country decided to stop. And literally most of the stuff here actually went into bankruptcy because everybody had all their money in the tech stocks.
So let's go back in time. So this would have been around the boom would have been the late 90s, right?
Yeah.
That's when the bubble was forming and all the
2002, right? So when the tech stocks just totally bombed, right? And at that point, we lost $3 million worth of business in 30 days. All signed contracts, all business we were in the middle of. Every one of those clients said, "Sue me, I'm bankrupt." So we struggled to keep going for about another year. And then in 2004, I finally had to close that company because it just wasn't sustainable. There just wasn't enough business going on. So I did a couple other things, ran a couple of other companies for a couple of years in between there. And then started this company as a sole proprietorship in 2005, 2006. And then we incorporated it in 2011 with the current model. And the objective of the current model was to be able to make some really efficient teams and run this central services model behind them and back them up so that in the long run, when we hit the next recession, because we all know there's always going to be another, you get a boom, you get a recession. It's going to happen. I've been through 4 in my career already. Some were worse than others. And I want these guys to be a little more recession proof. I mean, nobody's ever completely recession proof, but the objective is keep their team small, make them super efficient, give them all the background stuff taken care of for them so that they're able to survive when revenues aren't so high.
This model that you're building sounds franchise-like. Is that a word you use or
it's not a word we currently use. Okay. However, it is a franchise style model, right? So we built this with the plan in the end to have a certain number of locations, help those locations become extremely strong, really efficient, and very profitable. And once we get them to that point, allow the people that I've brought on as the general managers of those locations to be able to buy them back and own them. So what that looks like at the end of next year, we'll find out. But right now, that's kind of our plan. We're kind of headed down that road.
Out of curiosity, have you already designed other markets or cities that you want to be in? And how are you thinking about that?
Honestly, the 6 that I have been 100 hours a week for the last 4 years. So we haven't gone that direction yet. I mean, even Arizona was an act of accident. And then Reno, again, like I said, was one of those situations that just fell in my lap and I couldn't pass up. So, there's nothing that says that I wouldn't do another location right now, but we don't have any in the plans until we get all of the current markets financially stable and efficient the way they need to be, which we've gotten about half of them there, and the other half we're growing continuously. So we suspect over the next couple of years we'll be in that position. And will we get other locations at that point? Who knows? At the moment I'm pretty comfortable with what we've created now, but there could always be the right opportunity drop in my lap. I might take advantage of that.
Got it. So you described how you you had some opportunities to learn some lessons in the early 2000s from the tech boom. How did you guys manage the 08, 09 recession, the great recession?
So at that point, I was actually just prior to that, I was operating another company. I was not my company. I was running somebody else's, and I had taken that company from about 300,000 a year to 2.9 million a year in the 2 years that I had run it. And the owner didn't want to cut me a piece of the action, so I kind of walked away.
Sure.
And of course, a year and a half later, they were actually closed down. But that's when I started working on my own. And so during that time, during the recession, was actually a great time period for me. I had no employees. I was a one-man band. I didn't do any install. I subcontracted all my business. I sold, engineered, and programmed.
You probably actually made some money.
I actually made some money. Didn't last long enough, but I actually made some money. It's probably my most profitable years ever. And then the recession ended. And I had some great subcontractors that were doing great work and everything else. And they all said, wow, we're really busy now, Ron. You're not quite our first priority because you get discounted rates. So we'll get to your equipment eventually, but not right now. And so that doesn't work for my clients, right? We deal with luxury clients. They're not going to wait around for me. So at that point, I had to make the painful decision to start hiring employees again. And that's when we created this new model. And that was a long process for me to decide, how do I do this and actually survive the next recession so I don't have to go through the 2002 troubles I went through again. And I think we've come up with some great ideas. We've obviously learned lessons along the way and improved this process as we keep growing. But we've done a pretty great job over the last 11 years, going from, a small, less than $1 million company to an $8 million company, expected to be somewhere between 12 and 16 in the next 3 to 4 years. So,
wow. Well, so it sounds like when you look into your crystal ball and you look forward, you see some good years ahead from the economy standpoint.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there, a lot of economists, and a lot of other people who are talking about how things are going to be in the next 8 to 10 years. Not so great, but up until then, we should expect a pretty good boom in business. And I think with the pandemic, over the last 2 years, it's opened a lot of eyes to a lot of people about their residence, right? And we're a luxury residential company. So a lot of these people are setting up their homes to be, their place to be all the time with their family and doing all the things they want to do because they never know what's going to happen next. So that's been the big push. And I suspect that's going to continue. Certainly for the next 4 to 6 years, maybe further. But at some point or another, I think we're going to see that downturn come back. This can't go on forever. And when that downturn comes back, we're hoping that the business model that we've built here pays off, and all the efficiencies that we've built in are going to make it, recession somewhat proof. Nothing's ever proof, right?
I was at the. So here, I see the brochure on the floor. I'm going to grab it. We were at this conference last week, the Total Tech Summit, and they had a economist that you and I both heard speak, and and she talked about the 2030s. So we're talking about 8 years into the future. She made it sound pretty scary. And it was maybe the most scary I'd ever heard anyone talk about sometime in my lifetime from an economic standpoint. And she gave a lot of reasons. She listed like 8 reasons why it's going to be scary.
Yeah, they're a big company, and that is definitely the worst outlook I've ever had anybody give us. So looking forward to that, you have to be concerned about it. And they're saying 2030 and beyond. They're talking depression. I've never heard anybody say depression before. So they're saying severe recession at that point. And so, we're a little concerned about that. We'll be watching that moving forward. We try to project at least a couple years in advance of where things are and what we're seeing in the future. And I'm in enough meetings with people like that where I'm getting feedback with economic indicators and all the leading edge stuff. But I think that, people in this industry should take advantage of what they can now and build in their efficiencies, make as much money as they can, and put it away, because there's going to be a point in time when we're going to run into those issues, and you got to prepare for those things. They do happen, and they've kicked my butt more than once.
Well, so back to your language or your theme of a recession proof business, or maybe a recession fortified business.
Yeah.
What are some of those? Yeah, proof is maybe too strong a word, but
right.
fortified. We'll run with that.
Okay.
What are some other ideas that maybe those that are listening may be able to take this idea and run with it, or pull that thread? Ideas that you've learned from your experiences to make a business better fortified again.
The big thing for me is there's a lot of business for us right now. Everybody in this industry is absolutely swamped and turning away business because they can't possibly do it all. Most of the people in this industry are looking at that as an opportunity, and they're saying, well, I'm just going to hire a bunch more people so that we can get it done. The challenge to that is that when it's not so busy, all of those people is a huge expense. The thing that we tried first is, let's make all of the people that we have super trained and super efficient so that we're not losing a lot of time with them. So we've increased our efficiency significantly, but the ultimate goal is somewhere between 60 and 75% efficiency out of your employees, which is unheard of in this industry. But if you can accomplish that, and you can get your people to where you're billing for 60 to 70% of the time that they're out there, that's going to make a huge difference in your business, versus just saying, well, I need 4 more people. How about you take on 2 more people and you make everybody else on your team more efficient, and find all the processes and all the other things that are going to do that for them, so that you're not eating 60% of their time every week, because they're coming into the office and hanging out for an hour before they get out into the field, or because they're driving from the office to a job site instead of going straight to a job site, and things of that sort, so that you can improve those efficiencies and getting the absolute most out of your team, making your people love their job so that they're doing more to improve the company. Those type of things are going to be absolute changes in your business model, to where you don't necessarily have to find all those people, because they don't exist nowadays. We're all looking for people. And I mean, we have a pretty efficient group, but we're still looking for 6 more people, and we can't find them.
Yeah. Randy Stearns at that same event gave a great talk along this theme of, hiring people isn't necessarily the right answer to solve this, the current state of affairs. And he was speaking along many of the themes around efficiencies of workforce. He also described the example of simply raising prices, right? The idea, if you're a $5 million business, and if you're netting 10%, then your EBITDA is $5 million or 500,000.
Right.
Well, if you simply raise your prices 10%, that 500,000 flows right to the bottom line. You just 100% increased your profit, and you didn't have to add any labor to your team.
Correct.
Do you believe, or do you practice such beliefs, or during this pandemic, have you had to do some of that as well? I know that many manufacturers have raised prices.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things that play there. There's 2 areas for that price increase that are a challenge. Number one, you've got to make sure you don't price yourself out of the market. So you got to be careful how you raise your prices. But that being said, we also heard last week 6.25 is our current inflation rate, and it probably won't end there before the end of the year. So your labor force is not going to be settled with a 3% cost of living increase, right? Your labor forces are going to be looking for 8 to 10% raises. So if you're not increasing your prices, you're not covering your costs anymore. So there, you have to increase your prices. You have to watch how much you increase your prices. We've done it twice in the last year, just to try and keep up with the current challenges. And of course, equipment prices are a real challenge, because in our industry, you're making proposals for a job today that you don't even start for 3 months, and then you're buying equipment 6 months in, and you've quoted a price that's not current any longer, because manufacturers are if you haven't been through at least 2 rounds of price increases with manufacturers already, you're a very unique company, because you're not doing much in our industry, because these guys are doing what they have to keep up with the supply chain challenges. That being said, you need to have some way to make sure that you offset that in your contracts, right? Everybody's got to have a way to ensure that when those price changes happen, you're not getting handed the bill for that, and that your customers are covering those costs.
What do you mind sharing, just thematically, some of those contractual elements that you've incorporated that protect you if and when those prices increase?
Yeah, so we have an item in our contract that says prices are subject to change based on manufacturer retail changes. So anything that we can show an MSRP change, we can make a change in the contract if needed. And then anytime that we see price changes, our sales team is structured to where they're looking at those things. Engineering lets them know that we've got a price change coming, and we reach out to the clients and just let them know, hey, if you are going to still want this product in your system, we better get you this product now. You need to purchase it today, not in 3 months when we really need it. Otherwise, you're going to have a price increase. So we're pretty diligent about making sure that we let our customers know that those are coming, and taking advantage of the current pricing and making them buy that stuff up front so that it's there.
Got it. Do you have access to any special crystal balls that tell you what's coming in the next 6 to 12 months in terms of supply chain?
I think the next 6 to 12 months are still going to be a challenge. What I'm hearing currently is maybe 2023 will be back into a semi-normal supply chain situation. Some manufacturers are going to be quicker than others, but the reality is, with all of the shipping challenges and the trucking challenges and manufacturing challenges, I mean, it's great that all the manufacturing is actually happening now, but how do you actually get it into your location? The overhead picture of the LA harbor is like, there's no water left anymore. It's full of ships everywhere. That's not going to change anytime fast.
Really? I wasn't aware of that. So the harbor's full of ships that just can't come to port?
Yeah, they just can't get in yet. They just can't get them unloaded fast enough. And even if they get them unloaded, what do they do with it? Because they can't get enough trucking companies to get the stuff moving out of the port.
I was on the phone I was in a conference just the other day with my friends over at Sonos, and because I was like, man, I'm an industry person. I need to get some ports for my new outdoor audio system, and they just laughed at me. Yeah. I was like, all right, when? And they're like,
June,
sometime next year.
Yeah,
you can't even give me a quarter.
Oh no,
no.
Yeah, that's one of our biggest. That and surround sound receivers are 2 of our biggest challenges. And I mean, you can't find those anywhere. And we get back order reports every week from Sonos, but there's nothing in there that gives us any real insight as to when it's really going to happen. And nowadays, manufacturers send you back order reports, and they say this will ship in January, and then it still doesn't ship in March. And you're just like, what happened to the back order report? And they're like, well, sorry, it's still we have all the product you need. It's all on a ship in the Pacific Ocean somewhere. And once we get it to the port and get it actually transported out of the port to our facility, we can then tell you when you'll see it. So it's still going to be ugly for a while.
Got it. All right. Well, switching gears. You and I were in Orlando last week for the Total Tech Summit. And then in September, I think it was September, it might've been October. Everything blends together. We were in Nashville for an As the Own event.
Yep.
And in both of those locations, if you arrived in that city with a mask, I guess you had to, because we came off an airplane. But as soon as you land and start walking around the city, there's not a mask to be found in, most of Florida, much of Florida. It's where I live in Fort Lauderdale. And certainly in Nashville, there was no mask. And I want to say that was at that time when we were there that week, that was the hottest city in the country for COVID in terms of new cases. So I'm asking a COVID question, and I know we're all tired of COVID. I'm tired of COVID, although I'm getting my booster on Friday. So I'm probably not going to be feeling too great this weekend. What's COVID like where you're at, and how is it affecting business?
Well, it depends on which location I'm at. If you're talking about Oregon, California, Washington, Nevada, those states are still mandating things. They're still shutting down things. They're still challenging everybody. You're still seeing masks to go indoors. You're still seeing lack of events, those type of things that are still a problem area. And then you go to places like my Idaho location where they don't believe in COVID. They don't think that there ever was COVID. I mean, those guys have never worn masks, so it's pretty funny in northern Idaho. Or you go down to my Arizona location where they knew it was there and they said, screw this. We all know how to take care of ourselves. We'll deal with it. And I'm not mask mandating anything. And they haven't had masks for it's almost been a year down there. And there was a point when Phoenix was the hottest area in the country and they still weren't making people wear masks. So I think we've all kind of learned that, yes, COVID's there. Yes, it's brutal and it sucks and you should get vaccinated if you're comfortable with that. But the reality is if you're not getting vaccinated, you're probably going to get it. And if you're going to get it, okay, fine, get it and get it over with. But I think at this point with the vaccination rates where they are and all the people who have had COVID, we should be at a point where we're done, right? I mean, I certainly know I'm done. I've been done for a while. But that being said, it's still there. It's still tough. And I think the government just needs to get out of our way and let us deal with it.
Do you mandate, or is it required, or do you do it by state, whether your technicians going into projects mask or how they kind of handle themselves from a precaution standpoint?
95% of our team is vaccinated, fully vaccinated. So we don't require it. We do ask, we have a COVID protocol. We allow the clients to determine whether or not we're required to wear masks in their home. If they would like it, we will. But beyond that, we don't require it. We do require anybody who ends up getting sick to be tested at any given point in time. If they get a positive, we're making them, do the standard quarantine thing so that we're not infecting anybody else. I mean, we have a pretty strong COVID policy, but at the same point, we've relaxed it as much as we possibly can without being, a concern for the community.
Got it. All right. I'm going to switch gears. So last week, we graded your report card. We gave your website a report card grade.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share this on the screen. Maybe tell the audience kind of your impression of your grade, and then I'll share your website.
Yeah, fair enough. I went into this kind of jaded because you guys spent the last year continually updating our website and getting it really rocking, and we're getting a lot of great performance out of it. And I was expecting a perfect score. I was like, there can't be anything missing on this. They did it. So it's got to be great. And it came back with 2 items missing. And so I still got an A, but I was only 115 out of 125. And I was like, what the heck's wrong with this? And then I read it. And I realized that the 2 things that are missing are things that I'm supposed to do to give you guys the information to finish. Otherwise, we'd have been perfect. So, the thing that we have found over the last 2 years, the first year being we're not getting anything out of our website. The second year being we need to invest in that and get One Firefly to rebuild it and start doing some SEO and some marketing for us. That's turned that digital marketing around and made a huge difference in our lead generation and what we're getting from it. So that's helped us a lot. But I think that the whole program, by the way, the talk that you gave on the website and digital marketing was awesome. I felt like everybody you saw a lot of guys in that audience going, oh yeah, oh, we don't do that. Oh yeah. Are you doing that? No, we're not doing that.
Was I biased, Ron? Did I only
no,
favor?
you were very unbiased about the whole thing and just told everybody, hey, these are great ideas for your website. Not that One Firefly has to do them, but they're things that you should do to your website. And I felt that was done very well. That being said, I know all the guys that got the big numbers were all One Firefly websites, but
many of them, not all of them.
There were a couple of one of the 120s, right? Wasn't your guys's? That was somebody else's.
That's right. That's right.
So It's not necessarily everybody, but
I want to stay on this theme of marketing. And Ron, I know that Technology Design Associates, you guys are HTA members, and I would love to hear your marketing approach, because I'm going to say this is a marketing strategy that can be practiced, and when practiced well, it helps you win jobs. Can you kind of talk to the audience about why you're an HTA member and how that does help you secure new business?
So I would say it's not just HTA, although HTA has been a big jump for us. CDA membership. I talk to a lot of companies that are CDA members. They don't let anybody know that. Not that the public necessarily knows who CDA is, but they should know that you are CDA member or CDA certified or things of that sort. HBAs, home builders associations, things of that sort, being members and being involved. Those are great marketing pushes. For us, HTA was the next step up. We wanted to find a way to differentiate ourselves from just the average installation company or luxury integration company. And HTA is very adamant about the way that they vet their members. You got to go through a pretty rigorous process to become HTA certified. And it is a certification that makes a difference. And we use their website quite often. It's connected to ours. Their budget calculator allows our clients to go in and get some pretty high budgets for what their project would be. So it eliminates a lot of the sticker shock. Typically, we're not at the level that the budgets come back. We're usually at a lower level, but that's good. At least the clients are prepared for the worst. And then when we come in, it looks better. But I think that they've done a good job of, first of all, vetting members. Second of all, offering information that the public can utilize. And then the finder service allows them to find an HTA member in their area. The way it's designed for us, if they go to our website and they use the calculator from our website, we get that information. We've got a great starting point. So that works really well.
No, that's very cool. And what I'm looking at right now, the budget calculator, Ron, how do you use this? Do you take clients here, or do you find that they go here on their own and develop budgets?
We get a little of both. So we recommend people go to our website and click on the budget calculator, which takes them to the HTA site and gives them that information. And then we have some that come in and say, oh, I ran the budget calculator on the HTA site. This is crazy. I can't spend this kind of money. What can you guys do for me? And then we'll come back with something that's a little less painful and be able to keep them really happy. But, the HTA budget calculator is really kind of skewed towards the ultra high end. And if you click the wrong tab and say you want high end finishes, you just doubled your budget because that's normal if you're going with a lot of high end finishes. But it just depends on how they use it. We always tell people it's a great opportunity to start, and then we can take you from there.
Switching gears over to the client care membership section of your website, can you talk to the audience about how you approach after sales service and maintenance?
Yeah, so we have an internal team. So there's a couple of companies in our industry now that are doing 24/7 service for dealers. In our case, I was developing that process at the same time most of those companies were developing them for themselves. So we have an internal team. We have a remote service department that actually handles all of those calls, and they're resolving about 82% of the incoming calls for any service without rolling a truck. So again, back to those efficiencies that you run in your company and being cookie cutter and making sure you're using the same products and the same processes all the time makes it easier for you to be able to do remote service and not have to be on site unless something's broken. So our internal service department handles that. We have a subscription for that so that our clients can be subscribing to different levels and they'll get different levels of service based on that. But never is the level of service a determinant in whether or not we fix their problem. It's just a question of what they get billed for it. So our service team has done a phenomenal job. We have 2 full-timers that do nothing but that. And then we've got, I think, 7 technicians right now that rotate the after-hours phone and take those calls evenings and weekends. And that's worked out really well.
Ron, do you find that your 100% of your customers are pitched a membership and I'm seeing here a 0 price point membership. So they acknowledge, I'm making an assumption, they acknowledge there's some limitations if they don't sign up and pay. Is that the strategy there?
Yeah, so that's the objective, is to show them you don't have to subscribe. You have an option, but this is what it takes when you get the $0 option. You don't get any priority services. You don't get remote access. People aren't going to be taking your phone call at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, or on Sunday when the game doesn't work or what have you. Or we might take that call, but it's $250 an hour when we pick up the phone because you're not subscribing. Right. So we give them that option. Most people don't take that option. Most of them